Welcome to the Real Bromance Podcast.
Welcome back to the Real Bromance Podcast. We are back, and due to popular demand by all four of our listeners, just kidding, we're building. My name is Andy.
And I am Matt. Welcome to episode 3 of our podcast. Episode 3, big 3.
And what movie are we going to talk about today, Matt?
Well, today we're going to talk about, Andy, First Blood.
First Blood. It sounds like a bloody good time.
It is a bloody good time, but there's not actually, well, there's blood in there, not too much.
Yeah, I will say in my first impressions, once again, I'm following the same suit of being very surprised with what I've heard about a movie before seeing it. This was not the blood-filled gore fest I was to expect. It was
right in pop culture, because what we're talking about, First Blood, is actually it's the first Rambo movie,
which is exactly, so I didn't realize Rambo had such a tame start as this movie. We'll get into it. We'll talk about the recap. But yeah, this was, every clip of the movie that I had seen apparently was from the second movie and so on, because I was always expecting all of them to be taking place in the jungle, having him just killing a bunch of people for whatever reason. And this was not that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of pop culture references, and I feel like most of the pop culture references to Rambo have him like where it's just that ultimate like violence and gore. And this movie was, believe it or not, a little deeper as you found out.
Yeah, I didn't expect to need tissues for crying. But I was expecting to need a barf bag for all the gore. And yeah, no, it was definitely a tissue event. It was this was not what I expected in any way, shape, or form, as just like the last episode we did with the movie. And I was pleasantly surprised with this one. And we can break down. I will say this though, because it's probably in the recap. I'm gonna go on. This is my hill to die on. I'm going to say that though Die Hard is a good movie around Christmas time, this is now my new favorite Christmas movie. Because yes, even though they don't mention it once, in plenty of scenes there are Christmas decorations and Merry Christmas banners, this is in fact a Christmas movie. Ho, ho, ho.
It's kind of funny though, if you look up the keywords for this movie, and one of those alternate keywords is holiday film.
Thank you.
So you're not wrong.
All right, because I never knew that, and I'm tired of the old debate with Die Hard. It's never going to end, so I want to start a new debate with this one. I think it was full of merriment and joy.
Well, the funny part is, though, I think like you absolutely love Christmas, and I could really care less about Christmas.
It means you could care less.
But what's that?
It means you could care less.
I could care less. Damn English major. I think every movie that you see a Christmas tree, it's like, oh, it's a Christmas. I didn't even notice it until you pointed it out to me. I didn't even notice the Christmas in there.
Noticing is neither here nor there. The fact that, yes, if there's a Christmas tree, it's a Christmas movie. If there was a friggin' pumpkin carved out, then yes, it's a friggin' Halloween movie. Yeah, so I would say, yes, this is a Christmas movie, clearly full of Christmas cheer. And I think all it was missing was a few good carols, and we could have had a nice little Christmas movie. So with that, we will get to the recap.
Movie recap.
As a reminder, before we get into our recap, spoiler alert for a movie that is 42 years old. Just as a reminder, please go see the movie if you want, but also you had 42 years to do so. So spoiler alert. You have been warned. Okay, so we're going to start with the recap of the movie, as always. As usual, Matt, please interrupt me if I say something stupid or wrong. We like to be as accurate as possible here.
Of course I will.
So the memory of my notes only goes so far. So, introduction. First Blood. We meet John Rambo, who is a Vietnam War vet, and he's a former Green Beret, and he arrives in the small town of Hope, Washington. He's looking for an old war buddy. Unfortunately, he hits sad news and found out his war buddy has since passed away due to cancer from Agent Orange and all that fun stuff, unfortunately. So he's basically just walking through town And of course, the town's sheriff, Will Teasel, immediately takes a disliking to him because of how he looks, his disheveled appearance. And he basically picks him up in the car and forces him to leave town, which Rambo doesn't like that. That's not good for him. So when he resists and kind of walks back into town after being dropped off by Will, he is arrested for vagrancy. And at the police station, he is also treated not so well, as the police officers abuse him, and basically they start triggering his PTSD, which causes him to get violent, and understandably so. They are abusing him physically, mentally, so he kind of snaps. He breaks his way out of the police station eventually after kind of crippling a few guys, good punches and kicks, and he makes his way into the forest, the local forest. And fortunately for him, and unfortunately for our police friends, he is very adept to living in that kind of wilderness and nature due to his training. He has survival and combat skills that he learned and was trained for Vietnam, so he can evade capture. From there on out, it's a wonderful adult version of Home Alone in the woods, in the dark, in a thunderstorm, as Rambo sets up traps and little things. Everything except micro machines are used to stop the cops. And no paint cans. I'm a little upset with that. So, and no tarantula.
No tarantula.
This is kind of crap. There are rats, but we'll get to that. So as he's setting traps, he actually sets up non-lethal traps, which is, kind of showing like the cops to back off, leave him alone, and that he could kill them any moment, but he's still being a nice guy here. Still being a nice guy. And as the manhunt becomes more increasingly severe, one of the they bring in helicopters to try to find him. And of course, one of the cops that basically abused him the most when he was in the police station decides to take a couple pop shots at him. And this makes Rambo kind of mad. So he throws a rock, the rock of destiny, the rock that takes down a helicopter. No, it makes the helicopter pilot distracted. So the police officer falls out to his death. And now Rambo has a gun. And this is kind of sparks the main rivalry and the main story between the main cop, which is Will. Again, he's the sheriff, and Rambo, as Rambo just killed his best friend who he grew up with, and so now he wants vengeance. So this whole thing kind of spirals out of control. As they still hunt for Rambo and things in the storms come in, they have to take a break. They bring in Rambo's former commander, Colonel Sam Troutman, who's played by Richard Crenna. He's seen him in a lot of things in that time for movies. And he arrives and basically warns them that Rambo is highly trained and dangerous. They really should just let him go. But the sheriff isn't going to have any of that. So he calls in the National Guard and everyone comes in to try to find Rambo. They eventually corner him in a mine that's in the woods. And the wonderful Coast Guard of the Army National Guard, they happily take him out with a rocket launcher because, why not? So they take out the mine, but luckily, John Rambo survives. And while they think he's dead, he escapes, basically makes his way back into the city, and he is out for vengeance. During this time, he basically takes down all the power around the city using guns and trickery and explosions to eventually find his way back to the police station where the lovable Will Teasel, the sheriff, is waiting for him, and they have a showdown in which Rambo outguns him, outsmarts him, and is able to have the wonderful sheriff fall to his seemingly demise, but he does survive. And instead of finishing it right there, Rambo's commander, Colonel Sam Troutman, again steps in and tells him that the war is over. He needs to back it up, go home, and this is done. And then we are treated to a very unsuspecting, heart-wrenching kind of monologue from Rambo, talking about how the war never ended for him and how he's been treated so poorly since coming back from Vietnam. And it is heart-wrenching, which we'll talk about later. But at the end of the day, he gets all that out, gives his Colonel Troutman a good old hug, and he surrenders. And the movie ends with him walking in custody to get punishment for his actions.
And sets the stage for an amazing sequel.
I'm excited for it. Did I miss anything in that?
No, you summed it up beautifully. Because we're going to talk about it more, but like some of the great acting that we see in there from some of the main characters and just the unexpected human element to the movie is what I think makes this movie. And but we'll get into it.
Romantic discussion.
So, and as somebody who's never seen this movie before, really only know it from pop culture references, what did you think of this movie overall?
First off, trick pop culture references. As mentioned,
Sure, they were.
I'm pretty sure no pop culture reference that mentions Rambo is from this movie. So I liked it. As I will say, like about the big Trouble in Big Little China, Big Trouble in Little China. It was not something I expected. I was expecting gore, jungle fighting, all that good stuff, but I was not expecting it to take place in just a small town in the U.S. I was also not expecting it to be a Christmas movie. That brought cheer to my Yuletide heart. You usually the good, some people are tired of the Grinch. I need John Rambo.
I love the Grinch.
One of the things I will say right off the top is what I find interesting is everybody knows Rambo as like the tough guy name, and that's what the next movies are, Rambo. I wonder if the movie franchise would have been a little different if his name was John Sweetums, because he, in this movie, he has some touching moments and he is sweet, but like, could you think the next movie could be like, Sweetums, First Blood Part 2? I think that'd be, this time he's out for justice or just out for candy. I don't know. Either one makes sense. But I think the John Sweetums would be a good, they should just use that. Like Rambo, it sounds too violent for a movie that this was touching.
I mean, it would be right, but then it wouldn't follow the source material, because this was actually a novel written in. And the funny part is, in the novel, he didn't even have a first name; it was just Rambo, and he was a much different character in that. Like he was bloodthirsty in that movie. He was more of a little bit more of a loose cannon.
That's interesting. I mean, it's funny. It sounds like they applied that more for the sequels, which I haven't seen. What we'll get to, but yeah, for this movie, he was tame, and it makes me wonder. For the amount of dialogue he had was so minimal. I almost compared it to Terminator with Schwarzenegger. I know it was just like a nice photo walk. Like how he had more. He has so little dialogue for most of this movie, and then he just belted out that like that sad monologue at the end.
Well, I think it was cool because what they did with this movie, and I think it brought to light a lot of, because it's based off of him being a Vietnam vet. And we all know, like, people coming back from Vietnam, the soldiers and people coming back had a very tough time with it. And they kind of let you kind of make your own assumptions about Rambo. Like, he was very quiet. He seemed, at the beginning, he was quiet, proper. And then once he got to what they didn't want, I don't think they wanted him to have a lot of dialogue, because it was kind of like your own event. It was kind of like you, as the audience, you need to kind of choose what side you're going to kind of pick, because Brian Dennehy is amazing in this movie as the sheriff.
Yeah.
Tough as nails, but there's times where you see a little bit of weakness showing, but at the end he feels like he got slighted and justice wasn't done because of Rambo. But going back to why I feel Stallone didn't have a lot of dialogue in this movie was because you had to choose, like, they wanted to humanize Rambo a little bit more, make you choose, and it all led up to that ending.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that about choosing a side, because another interesting thing about this movie is there isn't really a clear side. Until one of the crooked cops really treats Rambo poorly, and then eventually Rambo, not even on purpose, has him fall out of a helicopter to his doom. Both sides are, you got one guy who's just trying to get through town, just wants to get something to eat and be on his way. And then you have, the local police who are just worrying about their local town, trying to make sure everyone's safe. And when they see a guy that looks potentially dangerous and they don't know anything about him, they're going to react. So it's just funny to me that the movie, you go through and it's like, well, you really don't want to see either die. In fact, halfway through it, when he kind of gets him with all the little traps and he's alive and he gives and they're all still alive, and he gives the warning to the sheriff and he's like, end this now, and you walk away, I'd be like, it would have been a happy movie, 45-minute flick, but it would have been like, I could see that. Now it's like everyone got the happy ending. Because at the end of the day, the driving force, like, this movie could have ended with a therapy session and some communication. Like at the end of the day,
Not in the 80s.
not that's what and that shows you when you get deep in this one. It shows you how far we've come along as a society now, where we understand this and this PTSD and what happens with soldiers going over to war. And yeah, when this movie came out and they're really trying to show it in this movie, and decades earlier, soldiers got the crap end of the stick. And people didn't either believe them or care that they were going through these kind of these PTSD, this traumatic like events, and how they take it home with them. So yeah, I just wanted to definitely sum up that it was just there really wasn't any like savage like motivation in this movie until the crooked cop fell out of the helicopter, and then the sheriff wanted justice for him killing his best friend, basically. Then it's like, okay, now you want to side of Rambo because it wasn't even his fault. And but really, it's just there's no real good side left or right on this one, like who better or worse.
I think it's cool. Like, and you brought up like the PTSD thing. Like watching this when I was younger, didn't really pick up on it. Watching it now and seeing it, I think it's pretty amazing that they were able to convey this, because I think a lot of that is lost.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays. And like, it kind of almost transcends time a little bit. Like not like the whole, I think it transcends it because of the trauma and showing that and having it in a movie and really explaining it. It was ahead of, I feel like it was ahead of its time a little bit watching it now.
Yeah, I definitely did a good job. And I mean, that's, the whole aspect of that is easily lost if you're watching this younger without the sense of how the world worked and how these things kind of transpired. Like, right? Anyone younger or just not caring will be like, yeah, movie with some action. Though they'd be disappointed because there's not a ton of action in this. That's this was a movie of feels like it. What'd you think about his like speech at the end when he's like crying to his commander?
I mean, because in reality, like looking into the movie and looking up some facts about it, like Stallone fought tooth and nail to have that monologue in the end of the movie, because they didn't. Once again, they were trying to build this up as more of a little bit of an action genre type movie, but Stallone put it in there because he wanted to make people aware of like what soldiers coming back from Vietnam were aware of, and that story that he tells about his best buddy being like all over the place when he was talking to Troutman came from actually veterans.
Oh wow!
So like once again, it transcended that. It transcended the movie and brought in like some real life emotions in there. And I love this. And watching this again, like I said, older, like Rambo's coming into this. He was going to see Sweetums, sorry. John Rambo, was going to see a friend that lived in this little town, and his friend passed away. Because in the opening scene, you see him walking down the hill and he's smiling, and he's just going to see, and then he comes back and there's nothing for him. And he even says it, and there's nothing for him.
Yeah.
Where he is right now. And it just goes to show. And then you got people, all he wants to do is get something to eat. The cops running him out of town. Yep. Then they take him, they hose him down, they're practically beating him up. Like, all he wants to do is get something. He really didn't do anything.
No.
In the movie.
And what's even funnier, too, is funny, but it's interesting because when the police officers find out later that this guy is this, decorated war hero with Purple Heart, all these, like, commendations and things, like, they, you could tell they kind of felt bad for a second, but a lot of the cops like had like a little bit of remorse, but the main sheriff still like, even though he looked a little conflicted, he was still like, nope, screw it, he still killed my friend, I don't care. Which is
but then I found it funny because he went through like every single time, like there was some big action sequence. He was like, oh, I don't hurt him, but then like Rambo would go away and he would be like, we're gonna get him, like almost like we want to kill him. Then they're like, no, like. So he's conflicted like all this, like every single time. I always found it funny in the movie. I never noticed it until recently.
Well, it's funny. I took that. It's a good point to take. I took that as he wanted to kill him himself, but I also didn't think about maybe that is the truth too. That he didn't really. He was conflicting feelings himself. 'Cause that's the thing too. A sheriff couldn't just kill him in cold blood. So, but yeah, it would be. That makes a good point. Like maybe it was his like internal conflict of figuring out what he wants to do with them.
And I think one thing that was lost, from the novelization versus the movie, and Stallone actually did the screenplay for this movie too. There was like 21 other drafts of it before he got a hold of it. But one thing that was taken out was Brian Dennehy's character, like in the novel, was actually a Korean War veteran.
Wow.
While Rambo was a Vietnam veteran. And it was in the movie, it was more that it was vagrancy and he just didn't want rough looking people in the town. But in the novel, it was because the Korean War veteran felt like the Vietnam veteran was getting more of the attention, and felt like the Korean War was kind of like one of those lost wars.
Interesting.
So, but I think it didn't work for the screenplay, and I think it makes sense. It looks more like the vagrancy because I don't think they wanted to pit like veteran versus veteran. I think that's what was the whole point. But I think you made a good observation, because in one scene later on in the movie, it looks like the sheriff has a Purple Heart in his office.
Yeah, it has medals behind him.
So maybe kind of alluding to that.
Yeah. And he kind of makes the comment where he says, like, everybody had a hard time in Vietnam. So, like, he could be saying, like, everyone had a hard time in wartime. Yeah. So why should he get special treatment, kind of a thing? Which is funny because you could take that as, his like cynicism to that, and his negativity and anger could be his form of PTSD. That's why he's a cold, kind of an a-hole of a sheriff, because of that. So, he didn't come out unscathed either, I would say.
No, I don't think so. And I think, anyone, any veteran, like I said, I think they're always going to carry something with them. And that's why it's important to make sure that you recognize that and, support them. Because it is a lot, and you don't know what people go through on a day-to-day basis. And some of the putting Rambo through some of those things in the movie, I think, like, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it was watching it now. I'm like, wow, this is something, because I deal with it on a daily basis with my job, and it's like, wow, this is something that they really put front and center. And I didn't think it was recognized.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s like this.
No, not like that. I mean, it was I agree. Like, it was just it really brought it to the forefront of kind of how things were for a lot of the soldiers. Yeah, I have a note here too. It says a difference from the book as well. The movie is, I guess, Rambo dies in the end of the book. Spoiler. But so that was how it's crazy to me, because how are they going to make all the bloody sequels? That wasn't me being with like English and British. I was like, no, bloody sequels. Make the bloody sequels. But what's funny too is, now, after his speech about saying how he has no one left and there's nothing for him here, and there's really nothing, the thought of him going to prison, you almost have to feel happy for him, because in a lot of ways, I'm not saying it's good for him, but for what he's used to, being out in the open almost seems worse for him than being somewhere like a prison, where he probably would almost feel more comfortable in a lot of ways. As he'll that's just an opinion, but like, we'll have to see how he is in the next movie to see if my theory's correct. But maybe, it can help him level out and kind of see structure of some kind. If it's almost like the being out and about was a lot for him, especially when he realizes his last friend is dead. He's like the last one left.
Yeah.
So
there was a lot, but while we're getting all philosophical, there's some things that people need to know about, like the movie, and some cool scenes, like the absolutely iconic knife.
Yes.
What was your first thoughts of that? Because you've seen it before.
So I was, as you look at his knife, first off, it slices, it dices, it makes julienne fries. It is great. So the fact that it was just this big ass blade with a wonderful unscrewable handle that had all these little goodies inside. The first thing I thought of was, like, growing up, everyone wanted that. They were in every knife book, and then you told me that was inspired by this movie.
It was designed. Yes, Stallone actually picked out Jimmy Lyle, who was unfortunately has since passed away, to design that knife, and it needed to be able to do everything you said. It needed to be able to cut wood. It needed to be able to slice meat. It needed to be able to do everything. And he basically invented that false handle with the compass in the handle, the matches and everything. Like it was made for the movie.
As a kid, I wanted one of those so bad. My dad wouldn't let me have one because it was like a full blade. My older brother got one, of course. I got a stupid Swiss Army knife with a toothpick, and all I wanted was that thing. I had I even had the string to do your own stitches. It had a rope in there, a little string. It had a metal cable, so you can you can cut down trees with that too, to make friction. It had everything in there. That was the coolest survival knife. And I remember Smoky Mountain Knife Work, all the knife books had that in there. It was always top sold. So it's just funny. Who wouldn't want that knife after that movie?
Jimmy Lyle and Stallone made the market for that. It's crazy. It made all the kids want one.
I know.
I don't know if it really took center stage in this movie. I know it was popular, but I think the second movie, which we're not gonna, I think that really what solidified it, because I think it almost became front and center.
Oh wow.
The knife was in a lot of scenes in this movie, but it's I think it took more front and center because I don't know, maybe it was a marketing ploy.
And well, I do appreciate that he used like everything from like cutting the shreds of shirt he needed for like something and wrapping it to make a torch. Like that thing was everything. Like that was a nifty little knife. I liked it. And I just love the police reaction to it was just like, what do you have a knife like this for? And he's like, hunting. It's like, hunting what? It's like, name it. It's like,
Yeah, name it.
and I agree. I'm pretty sure he can hunt anything with that. It was actually, now I think about it, in the scene where he hunts the boar, does he use a spear or does he use the knife?
No, he attaches the knife to the stick.
There's truly no end to the fungi. If I was going to be an infomercial and I had to sell it'd be the
Torch at one point for
he wraps the torch. Like I said, the torch. Yeah, that what a knife. Don't thank me, thank the knife. Yeah, that was one thing I will say, and correct me if I'm wrong too, the actor who played his commander there, he is in Hot Shots Part 2, right?
Yes, he takes the role as Topper Harley or Charlie Sheen's commander. He actually plays dual roles, so
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's like the Varsity Blues. I know the guy there played the same kind of role in Another Teen Movie. Yeah, it's like that's pretty funny when an actor can like take a serious role and still come back to it and have fun with it. But that's neither here nor there. But I thought it was a good catch. I'm like, he looks familiar. Yeah. I never saw this movie before, but I have seen Hot Shots, so that's why I knew.
Make the connection.
Exactly. So, I think any other thoughts you have about the movie?
No, I just looking into this movie, I discovered like a lot of interesting things. Do you know where Rambo got his name from? Where the name Rambo comes from?
No, but I don't agree with that. It should be his name. So go ahead.
That's right, it's Sweetums, but it's actually named after a fruit. It's actually an apple.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're not as popular anymore. The Rambo apple was a popular apple. It's not popular anymore. It's good. I guess it was good for jams and jellies. Supposedly, it's like,
would you cut it with an oversized knife?
Probably with a big with the Jimmy Lyle special. Yeah,
that's pretty good. Okay,
yeah,
Rambo apple.
And another fun fact that I found was that apparently in British Columbia, where the movie was filmed, the setting of the movie took place in Washington.
Yeah.
Washington, United States. But it actually took place in British Columbia, in Hope, British Columbia.
Where they filmed it?
Where they filmed it.
It's kind of funny because it was still the town of Hope in Washington. It's the same.
What they did was they actually did a wooden sculpture to Sylvester Stallone as Rambo, and they put it up in 2020.
That late?
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, they gave Rocky his statue like after the first movie or second movie, and then and that's since been torn down. But now he gets a Rambo statue.
Listen, he got a Rambo statue made of wood in Hope, British Columbia.
Hope it was made of apple wood.
Yeah. I think a joke that was lame, but it was.
That's right, because Ramp, hey.
No, but like I said, growing up, I got introduced to this movie by my dad. He watched it a lot, and I watched it. It was just it's cool to see it. I mean, in watching it now, like this movie is a lot deeper than I thought it was, especially watching as an older adult. Made a lot of different connections, and it was kind of cool.
Like, I'm upset because this is supposed to be a lighthearted podcast where I make jokes as much as I can at the expense of whomever, and this was tough to do with this movie. Except the only thing I can say was the National Guard, the dialogue of them just being so unwilling to they didn't want to be there. Everything was that was funny. It was like they were clearly just sucked into this to do the job.
That was a lot of them in there though. Like a lot of them, like the dialogue, the National Guard, even some of the cops. It was like they weren't trained to deal with it, and they thought they were. Like they went out looking for him, thought they were going on like a good old boy hunt, and that wasn't the case.
I also love that they like basically supposedly barred all entrances and exits to like the wilderness, like where he was in that forest area. And somehow he still ran into hunters. Like this had nothing to do with it. It's like, he almost killed a kid because like he came up with a gun. But I was like, shit, one of these things don't belong here. And how they snuck in. I figure if they can sneak in when the place is surrounded, Rambo probably could have gotten out.
Probably could have gotten out. But and another fun fact I told you just while we were watching it, who else was tapped to play Rambo or was interested in playing Rambo?
Who?
Pacino.
Oh yeah, another Pacino's Rambo and handle that. That would be get out of this mind.
How do I get out of here?
I couldn't buy that. There's no way I'd be able to buy that. I would have a tough time with that one. It's what maybe in this movie they could have gone with it because it wasn't just all action and everything, but like he wouldn't be able to keep a roll up where he's playing this big action star with muscle. It wouldn't work. If they focus more on just like the mental issues and things, maybe.
That's how he wanted to play him more like the character was in the book. I could see Pacino playing that. Like, I mean, he played Serpico, and you know he kind of had like that little bit of like a tough guy. But I mean, growing up as kids, like. We never saw really a young Pacino like acting. We saw more like older, like, you know, Scent of a Woman, you know, those kinds of things. We saw him a little bit older, so I think he never was an action genre type guy. And then another fun actor that could have played Troutman. This is gonna get you. If he was asked, he would have accepted the role.
Oh boy,
Burt Reynolds.
Oh man, yeah. I would have been. Oh man, having the bandit play a Smokey. I don't know if I could. I don't know. That would have been. I don't know. You know what it is? Here's the thing. The only I'll say in the time, like now, I feel like he's become funnier and been crazier roles now. Maybe at the time it would have been okay. I personally couldn't have watched him do it.
But that's what Stallone said too. Stallone's like, you're too big of a star to play like second fiddle, and like to have them sitting there like chewing. It's like chewing gum. Yeah. Rambo's the Green Beret Rambo. Yeah.
Turd Ferguson. Yeah, it's a funny name.
Green Beret. Yeah, it's name that could kill you. But
yeah. That was no way that would have worked. That's crazy. Wow. Yeah. Imagine that different movie that would have been.
It's so cool to like think about like who could have starred in different movies and like how that movie would have changed or like what it has, you know, and what we've seen happen to movies.
Yeah.
Where different actors have taken on those roles.
Yeah, that would have been
Back to the Future.
Yeah, with Stoltz there, to be Marty.
Harris Stoltz, yeah.
Oh yeah. I love Michael J. Fox. I think he did that role incredibly well. But like I feel like the character was generic enough in the beginning. It probably would have been just fine. Like if he did do it, if we didn't know that Michael J. Fox was a possibility, he wasn't like so out of character that it would have been like ruined, like Al Pacino versus Sylvester Stallone. But yeah, ultimately got the better option. So
I just don't think you can take like, I mean, once again, it can happen. I just don't think you can take like Rambo is Stallone.
Yes.
Schwarzenegger is the Terminator. You know, that's just who it is. It's like
The Rock is the Tooth Fairy.
The Rock is the Tooth Fairy. You're going to use that one. You're always going to use Downey as Iron Man, Jackman as Logan. You know, yes, The Rock is the Tooth Fairy. Sure, yeah.
That was heart wrenching. That was a good movie.
We'll review that one somewhere down the line. I probably won't be a part of the podcast for that movie, but
though I have to go. I can safely say I have not seen that movie, so it would fit our.
All right, I haven't seen it either, and I will not. And I love The Rock.
All right. Yes, that was good. The only question I have for you that is part of our bromance is how would you have reacted if I fell out of a helicopter to this vagrant and died? Would you risk your life to avenge me?
I mean, seeing what happened to some of those guys getting stabbed with sticks and everything, and then the guy coming at me with the Jimmy Lyle special.
Yes, you would.
I'd be like, you know what? It was an honest mistake, my man. Sorry.
You son, would you at least be upset for a few minutes?
I would be upset for a few minutes, but then, like I said, when I had the Lyle special to my neck, I'd probably be like, but that he didn't really give up. He got the neck. He had the knife to the neck, and he's like, oh, we're still going after this guy.
Yeah, I would like to say you'd be gone. I'd have I know you. I know. I would be unconsolable for like a good 10 minutes, and I move on to find another podcast co-host.
I'm sure you probably would.
The only bit of solace there in knowing is the bar is so low right now. I could easily find one. You know, like there's.
You can go out on the street, probably find one.
I could. I mean, you like movies? Good, get in here. No, I kid.
But then there wouldn't be 30 years. The podcast wouldn't make sense anymore.
It'd be 30 seconds. I built this person for 30 seconds, and we both like strangers. That would be the new podcast. Yeah, it'd be the Real Bromance Perfect Strangers Edition. I'll be Balky. That aged us.
Yeah, I really did.
All right. So coming up next, we will do our bromometer. Yeah, actually, no, it's favorite scenes. Favorite scenes.
Favorite scenes.
Okay, now it's time to guess each other's favorite scene of the movie. Do you want to go? So right now, the score is you won, me nothing. You pull the one right out of your penis. The other day, I was really shocked at that one. So let's see if you can do 2 for 2. I say you go first because you're winning.
I don't know. This one's kind of tough because I don't know where you stand. Like, I know where you stand on this movie, but
I was sitting while I was watching.
well, yeah, but where you sitting on this movie? Your favorite scene for this movie, and I think I'm gonna swing and miss on this one. Your favorite scene for this movie, I think it's the ending. I think the ending got to you for some reason because I think it was the most. Because I think you even said like, "Wow" at the end, but I don't know. But I could be wrong. But go ahead. Am I right or wrong?
You're wrong, but you're making me feel very guilty about it. Because now I think, yes, that should have been. But what was, because it was just so ridiculous to me, was the National Guard blowing him up with the grenade. It's just how like fumbly it was, and like I was like no one wanted to do it. They counted 30 and they shot. It's just, the dialogue there was like, oh, I'm supposed to be here. I don't know what I'm doing. Like that got me. But yeah, so that was one I had in my head. Now that you mentioned the end scene, which I did really like, and it really was the heart and soul of the movie, I have to say I feel guilty for my favorite scene. But no,
that was the lightheartedness in the middle of that movie.
Yeah,
was that one scene with the National Guard.
it was just shocking to me too. That seemed out of place, but it worked. Like I was okay with it. It was like, because also it was definitely in realism too. Like I said, these guys are, part-time dude. They mentioned like, I'm part-time. Like it's they're not meant, they obviously could be, but they're not expecting to be dealing with something like that.
I think this whole movie was like kind of like people are just out of their element. The only 2 people that seemed to barely be in their element was Rambo and the sheriff. Like they're the only 2 people. Like everyone else was kind of like,
yeah,
and they're going out there doing what it just shows like they weren't prepared to deal with this.
Yeah, big time. And it wasn't even like a kind of a challenge. This was an impossibility.
Yeah.
All right, so I got to pick yours now. Now the problem is you just totally muddied up my. Oh man, I guess I'm gonna go with it just because.
Take a shot.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna say the final scene with the monologue.
Yeah, I mean, you actually we're 1 for 1 right now. We're tied. Yeah, because that scene, like, one, I think it. Once again, for me, the movie, watching this again, doing what I do now as a special education teacher and knowing about trauma and stuff like that, watching this movie now, it actually changed my thought on this movie, believe it or not. And I've seen it a lot of times, but not recently.
Gotcha.
That ending, that monologue and stuff like that, like, and just Stallone, it's not like typical Stallone, like over the top, It was well planned, and like looking at it, like I said, I always do research before we do these things just to see if like there's something that I missed. Finding out that like he really pushed to do that, to like bring those things kind of the forefront. It's a lot. I know this is supposed to be a lighthearted thing, but like to me, I thought it was pretty cool that he was able to do that, and it actually like it built up the character a little bit more, made it real.
Definitely. So my hope is it doesn't get like wiped away completely in the sequels, because I agree. I think they left with this like noble character who, completely understandable and you're sympathetic with because of what he went through, and he was just trying to find his way. So yeah, I agree. Hopefully that was worth it. And I honestly, I think like when I was watching it, that scene just stuck with me. I wasn't expecting the last scene at all. So in my head, the one that I was like, I had pegged as a favorite scene just as I was going through it. So I didn't really. But yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think if I had watched this movie again, like in 10 years from now, if I watched again, I think that would be my favorite scene now because I got the funny part out of the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Cool. So that's good. We're 1 for 1 on the favorite scene.
The Bromometer.
Now we're at the Bromometer scores. Matt, what do you want to give it? And just for those just tuning in, the Bromometer is our rating system from 0 to 100. 0 is you can skip it, you can Wikipedia it, you can do whatever you want, just ignore it. And 100 would be, you got to see it before you die, preferably with the best bro. So we're giving that. What do you rate?
I mean, this one started the franchise.
Sweetums, First Blood. Sorry.
Sweetums, First Blood. So First Blood, Rambo in quotations, it started the franchise. I think the franchise went a little downhill as he got older. That's unfortunate, but this movie, I think, powerful, a lot of great acting in it. Dennehy, Stallone did a great job in this. I'm giving this movie an 81.
81. So, and that's a good score. So I was higher than the last movie we reviewed. I'm having a tough time with the rating for this. Now, there's a lot of aspects I liked, and I think this could also be one of those things where my expectations were incredibly off of what it ends up being completely inaccurate to what it actually was, and where I did like the heart and soul of it for the little bits that had it, especially at the ending. I'm gonna go with a 75.
75.
So it wasn't edge of my seat action. There was a couple slow parts. I think overall it was a good movie. I would definitely be watching it again. At some point here or there. But yeah, I think in terms of just overall just enjoyment out of the movie and kind of what ended up. I said this when we were watching it, the ending, and this is probably totally this is on purpose, I'm sure, and everything else. I felt empty. The fact it went from this great monologue, and there was just this I feel sorry for him, and then literally the next scene is him walking out and the credits roll. There's just no resolution.
What were you looking for the end and then?
Somebody throw a pie, something. No, I just want something that was just that would I don't know. A perfect example, something minor, I think would have actually been interesting. It could be a complete throwaway for the character. I don't know. Is at the end, Rambo looks at the sheriff going into the ambulance. I would have been okay, had something if the sheriff just head nodded slightly. Okay. It's you pissed me off. We did everything we had to do, but okay, you're captured. So he got his closure. I just feel like there's just a respect at some point there, because the whole time he underestimated him, saying what he could do. So I feel like even that would have been a little okay. I feel like something happened. It's just
There was no resolution to it.
yeah.
Would you have felt better if they had set up a sequel? Somebody came running over, we're trying to curve, and there's an emergency. We need somebody that can help us, and it sets it up for a sequel. Would that have been better too? Some kind of closure or setting up a scene?
No, that would have. If the monologue didn't happen, yes.
Okay, or if the monologue, fair enough.
Since the monologue happened, I guess even if it was just more, even if it showed him, I guess he was literally seconds of walking out of the building and the credits roll. Even if it showed him where he was ending up, or sort of getting into a vehicle with it was just so abrupt. It was almost it would have felt was oh man, this movie's going kind of long. Maybe we should let's just end it right here.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, that's it. We just ran out of funding for the movie. That monologue was just way too long. So let's just thanks Stallone for adding it. We're just gonna kill you and have a great have your hand reach out under the grave.
And that's a novel. He does that.
Exactly. So, but yeah, no, I think I think that was it. But otherwise, that's what I think. I think the 75 is okay. We got up from the movie and I was just I don't know. I need a Butterfinger. I needed some Sweetums to heal the empty space that this left me. But empty. I'm not gonna say it's not they did a bad. I get it. It's definitely part of the movie to do that. It's just I think it just hit me that way today. So yeah, 75. That was a long-winded 75 to 75.
That was a 7. I think that's fair. I mean, I think sometimes you go into movies and. I mean, my biggest thing is I always say movies need to be entertaining.
Yeah, and it was. Yeah, so 75's not a bad score by any means.
That's not.
It's a solid C.
It's a solid C. There's nothing wrong with them. Like I said, I think it's something. Once again, I should see it. Some people are going to be I'll watch it again and again. Some people are going to be oh, I've seen it once. Okay, cool.
I'll end it with one highlight. One thing I will say, I said this in the movie too, the stunts were spectacular. I feel like the stuff they did with falling out of the helicopter, falling in, when Rambo jumps off the cliff and goes into the trees, it was obviously no CGI, which is great. But two, if there was dummy use, the dummies look real, but I think it was real stuntmen doing it, and it looked great. I feel like it all, you felt a lot of the stuff you saw.
The funny part, what you brought up, remember you brought up his cut on his arm?
Yeah.
While we were watching the movie. So doing the research, like I said before the movie, he actually did to test out the makeup. He actually, when they did it, he actually went to an ER with the fake
Oh, wow.
with the blood pumping out and his stitch job that he did,
wow.
In the field stitching, and the nurses were oh my God, they thought it was real. He just asked for Tylenol,
It looked, and they were like, wow, he's the toughest guy I've ever seen. Like,
It's what that, but yeah, good point. That was personal too. Yeah, the prosthetic these, whatever it was, that it didn't look fake. It looked like real blood pouring out of it. It didn't look like a fake arm. Like, and there's movies in that era where they'll do even like the original Terminator and stuff, where you could tell everything's prosthetic and it just didn't work. It's just fake. Like this looked legit. Like if you, I was right there when you said that story, I thought you were going to tell me he cut himself to do it, because I'd be like, wow, I believe that now because it totally looked real. So yeah, okay. Yeah. So that I ended on a good note. I'll give it a 76.
You don't have to change your rating.
75.
Give it a 75. Stick to your story. Go on.
I think now that is the end of our third episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Please leave us a review, subscribe to the podcast. We are on right now we are on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. We will hope to be doing some switching to a video format sometime in the near future, so you can see our faces and all of our excitement as we tell you about the movies we've seen.
Got more of a face for radio.
Thank you. That's what my mom tells me too. So with that, this is Andy bidding you adieu.
this is Matt. Have a good night.
Way to finish it up. Good night, everybody. Or good morning, whenever you're watching this.